Hi, Nick. It looks like you're all set.
Yes, I am.
I we'll wait right until 11 so that people join at the right time and there's no confusion. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Good. Yeah. I'm excited to see your presentation today.
Awesome, good. I'm glad. I'm also
Yeah.
super excited to present, honestly. I'm excited
Oh,
to
good.
see what I've got.
Yep. That's good to hear.
Totally. And I'm hoping, honestly, with this project, I'm actually hoping to be able to come back to the school at some point and see everybody again, at the soonest convenience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I think we all are, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, have you been to who have you seen present this morning?
I did watch some of Cody and Christian's. I was there at the beginning.
Cool.
And saw Yeah, I missed a few of the beginning ones because I was rehearsing a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be watching a few after this. I know my friend Brenna's coming up, Brenna Arnold.
Yep.
I'm excited for hers.
Right after you.
Oh yeah, she is after me. She's in this
Yep.
room, right?
Yep. I have a great day. I'm super
Oh,
excited to see everyone's presentations today. So
totally. Yeah, you're gonna love Brenna's.
yeah, I've loved every single one. It's like Jan picked them all out for me. Yeah, cool. All right, couple more minutes. We'll wait and get started right at 11.
Perfect.
Cool. Gonna mute in case I have any small visitors that come into my office, which
Sure.
happens from time to time. There we go. All right. Well, thank you for everyone that's joined us. It's 11 o'clock, so we're going to start our next presentation. And Nicholas, I will mute myself. You have mute the rest of the room and give you the remainder of the time. And when you're done presenting, I can unmute everyone for any comments or questions they might have.
Perfect.
Great. All right. Go for it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Hey, everyone. My name is Nicholas Renaud, and this is my presentation on my mural proposal for mass art in as soon as possible. It's called Trapped. So my researchable question in the beginning was, how can ornamentation activate an unused space? And when I speak on ornamentation, what I'm referring to is when I walk through the city, especially Boston, I see a lot of these old, beautiful buildings that are decorated with ornamentation that brings a lot of life and character to the city, which I find is being somewhat lost in art or design today. And I wanted to do a little bit of research and experimentation into how this ornamentation from history and tradition could come back into our design today. So I scouted out a few places around mass art that I felt like were public spaces that were used quite frequently, but didn't really get people to stop and think about where they were. A lot of these spaces have sort of like an attempt at, utilizing these spaces, but for the most part, they're very empty. Something that I really like about public art is that it has the potential to educate people about something. It has the potential to express something personal, like a personal idea that somebody has. And it also has the potential to get somebody to stop where they are and really experience something that they might not experience somewhere else. So as I walked around Boston for some of my research, I found a lot of these signs that explained what to do or where they were in the city. So one of my favorite examples here is down in the bottom left-hand corner. I found the site of the old Bowling Green in 1700 in Boston. And when I found the sign, I was actually like completely taken to a different place. I started to think about Boston as a completely different environment instead of a city, but as like a town or like an up and coming suburban neighborhood. And so that really inspired me here. Another time that I was super inspired was when I found this map on the ground, and it was literally laying out each of the streets that had originally been exactly where I was standing and named them as they were originally named. So I discovered a completely different culture within the space that I was standing in today. Signs also have the potential to express ideas, emotions, and can get people to engage. This sign on this temple here is really hard to read, but the first thing that you really do see is the ornamentation, the floral qualities, and it evokes this feeling of liveliness and being alive, and what it is to be human, I feel. I love the grate on the left here that kind of express this idea of movement or sound. And even here, these ideas of making something expressive through light or taking two symbols and putting them together, like the tooth here and the paintbrush. I loved this idea here of two symbols coming together to create a new meaning. I was going through New York City at one point and studying those old signs. In the train station, it was so cool to see the juxtaposition of old tiled signage and then this new kind of, sort of digital signage that was pasted all over. What I was really inspired by was this painting on the right-hand side here. So it's painted to look like a piece of architecture on the wall, but it's actually just a painting. And this is actually clearly referring to like ancient Roman or Greek art, which I find really fascinating. And I really wanted to hold on to that idea of traditional painting in my project for a mural. Here are some other paintings. I just love the idea of how you can take a different side of a building and give that building a new meaning. A building isn't all just about the facade. I was highly inspired by Best Dressed Signs this semester. I've been following them on Instagram for a really long time. They make all of their signs, they're a couple, and they actually make most of their signs together just as as the two of them. And they work with some really beautiful colors and are derived from this old traditional style of sign making. They told us that they were part of the Pre-Vinylite Society, which is a group of people who actually reject the making of signs from vinyl or more contemporary ideas. And so they make everything from paint and, again, those traditional like gold leaf and materials like that. So I knew, again, that I wanted my final mural to be made traditionally instead of being something that was just vinyl or something like that. This is actually one of a mural that I found in JP, which I believe they made, and I found it super inspiring. All this research did lead me to doing a workshop in my class, and I asked my group members to choose either an archetypal symbol, a symbol that a lot of people will understand or have understood for a long period of time, or a word or letter mark that could represent something new in a space. And so as an example, I used each of the spaces in mass art. So here's one of the spaces, and some of my colleagues put in some different ideas with words, playing with the size of the type, putting things on windows, being able to see things from inside and outside. I really liked this idea where it sort of made this doorway sort of like a window on a computer or something, asking you to log out. In this space, people were evoking sort of like they wanted something big and engaging here, maybe like a TV set or something, or maybe some sort of wayfinding, like telling you where the Uber kitchen is, or labeling the animation department. This was a space that I was really dead set on changing for a while, because I've always felt like this space at the elevators is a really welcoming spot, but it doesn't have a lot for us to engage with. I was thinking about how these flower pots could actually have like some sort of life to them or something in there, or maybe that beam in the back could tell you where you are or what different floors in tower actually have on them. But a lot of people really did react to having something floral here or something living. And then this was one other space where I was trying to play around with some 3D type. I really wanted to make something either fuzzy, or one of my colleagues had this idea of creating envelopes on the wall and being able to interact with them that way, or like a projection or a seat. This was the last big idea that I was playing with before spring break, where I wanted to put up a big mirror and sort of attach a letter form or symbol to create a floating kind of object in space, like creating an illusion for somebody to be surprised by, if you will. And I even tried prototyping it at the beginning at home. But as you guys know, we did run into some issues at the beginning or in the middle of the semester, where sort of everything kind of got flipped on its head, and we lost a lot of access to the resources that we had. So I kind of had to put the whole 3D thing on the back burner. I started going back to more 2D work and thinking about it that way. And I felt like I had to make things more digital. So it started kind of making things a little confusing here. I ended up making a sort of like a 3D inspired typeface here at the top. And I wanted to, I thought I was going to build this out, but I realized in the end that this was sort of bringing me further and further away from my original goal, which was to make something tactile and to make something that was like true to my work and inspired by tradition. So I ended up kind of looking back on some different things. I started thinking a lot about Dadaism and the idea of rejecting a lot of these social constructs because of the state that our society was in. When Dadaism originated, it originated around a point where a lot of people felt like their society was crumbling around them, and it felt like there was some chaos that was going on, and they felt like what they originally knew was no longer. And so because of that, I could really relate to that, especially with this project. So I wanted to definitely do some research into this. I found Alan Lennon's work, and I was instantly majorly inspired. He is a contemporary designer today, and he makes a ton of work that recently is all hand cut and pasted together. And he recreates these beautiful abstract scenes that represent an issue that we have in our society. And he uses a lot of pop culture images. It looks like a lot of these were pre-taken photos that he's mixing together. This one really inspired me just because of the idea, how he's playing with depth here. I also was really inspired by Hannah Hawk. She was one of the original Dadaist artists who was dealing a lot with photo montage in the beginning. And I was super inspired by how she combines like human faces and human parts really to recreate a story about her personal view on the world. I found it very postmodern for something so early, and I found it really beautiful. This one specifically, I was really fascinated by how the silhouette in the front was sort of blending with the back and how they were sort of overlaying together. And so this all started to inform me for my first proposal. Let's talk about the actual proposals now, you guys. I would like you guys to know that I do have about a group of 4 or 5 people right now of painters and preparators to help me set things up and put everything together. I do have some work in letting people know once I start this, who's going to help me on the project, dealing with, public safety officers or custodians. I'll definitely be talking with them as well. I've limited my mural space to just 2 potential spaces, either on the 2nd or the 3rd floor, and they're each about the same size. And I believe that they'll each take about 2 to 3 weeks. But I do believe in the end I will only be doing one of them. So these are my materials here as well. I believe that the estimated budget will probably be around $600 for this project. But with that, I'll give you guys my first proposal. The first proposal is called The Shit Show. And this again is sort of like a psychological representation of sort of my process through the last few months, I suppose. And I think that it's reflected in more than just me, but maybe an entire culture, So I thought that this was really important in sort of validating this idea and this psychology and representing it in a 2-dimensional form. So I started off with taking a lot of selfies that I had already taken or that I'd been taking and combining them with these, with signage and symbols to, again, represent that feeling of sort of like wanting to be, but not being able to be, or being prevented from doing something. So I even took them apart. I ended up printing a lot of these and ripping them apart and putting them back together to represent more than just the original idea. I really wanted to have a really tactile quality about my work. That's always been the biggest part for me. And I would like to show also a part of my process for making my poster, because this is how it was created. I did want to create each of these different versions again to represent that psychology. This is the final version that I'm considering, and I really loved how it came out when I gridded it and printed it, because the ink actually kind of distorted it even further and gave it even more meaning. I have a little sketch here that I would be, recreating and blowing up. And I believe that this is about what it would look like on the wall. Here, I am proposing to keep it sort of in just part of the wall because I'm hoping to inspire somebody to make another mural. In this case, I think that it's really important that this space on the 2nd floor could be utilized by multiple people, and I'd love for there to be an area for people to kind of feel like they can express themselves, and be able to add things to where they'd like to. My second proposal is called Doorways, and this is a concept that I've been following since the beginning of my research. I've been taking a lot of pictures of doorways, and at the beginning it was more about a sense of identity and how people identified through just what they put on their door, how they paint their front door. But as my research progressed and everything happened, it seems like our perception of a doorway or an entrance has changed since the whole coronavirus pandemic. It's like now we have to think twice about how we enter a space, And I think that this is going to be affecting us for at least some time. And it's important for us to remember this. So what I did was I took a few doors and I warped them to kind of represent the inaccessibility of some places in our society right now. And I was hoping that like in the space, unfortunately you're unable to see it in this picture, but all the way to the left, there actually is a door that you can enter. And I thought it would be really interesting for people to have to walk by two doors that they're unable to enter in order to recognize that they can enter the one on the end. And again, sort of get them to stop and think about a time when they were unable to access a space. My last proposal is called A City Trapped. And again, this is sort of the culmination of everything that I've been researching. One of the biggest issues that I had when I first underwent lockdown was that I wanted to take a walk. You know, I love walking and exploring the city, and it automatically felt dangerous, you know, after a certain point. I felt like I couldn't go out, but I ended up doing it a lot anyways, just taking the right precautions and being safe. So I ended up going out and I took a really long walk one day and I came back so inspired. I just drew a ton of pictures like this where I was just drawing this architecture, and it kind of got me thinking about how I view a city and how idealized I make it and how it isn't necessarily ideal, but it can still be beautiful. And so I ended up taking a lot of these old photos that I was cutting and I took the people out of them. I distorted them. I wanted to represent, again, this idea of sort of a different energy. Here, I wanted to make it seem like all of the energy was coming from inside the buildings, or the environment was all built inside. I wanted to show how our expression of things are all coming from inside of a place now, and how we're sort of trapped. And so in the end, I wanted to create this sort of environment of chaotic buildings that are sort of being fabricated together and sharing these ideas, but again, with like no people, and for it to be all really connected from the inside. This is also another example of how it could look in the other space. This is on the 3rd floor, but all of the other ones are on the 2nd floor. So I have one last question. I have a question for you guys. If you guys like any of my murals, if you guys have a favorite, I would love to know which one is your favorite. I'm gonna be dropping this link in the chat section, I believe. And I was hoping that you guys could fill out just a quick survey, just choosing which one is your favorite and if you'd like to leave a reason why. But other than that, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nick.